What makes a movie a classic? Why are some movies held so highly in regard above others? Why do some movies get remembered for so many years to come and some others just fade away into time? I'm going to answer that today here on this special episode of JC Entertainment. We're also going to take a look at the topic of should TCM, Turner Classic Movies, and channels like it show modern programming if it's considered to be a good movie or not. Even if it's an Academy Award winner, had a lot of good reviews, had a lot of hits, and even critic praise. Should they continue to show these movies or should they stick to older black and white movies? I am your host, Jonathan Cody, and welcome to JC Entertainment. What is up, guys? This is your host, JC, and welcome to this very first installment in my new series, JC Entertainment, the show where we talk all things movies and television, and we take these movies and television and we really kind of look at them in a different light. We review them, we really kind of look at maybe some of the messages that are trying to be told through these movies, as well as breaking down these movies and television series to really kind of comprehend and understand the deeper messages and themes that are being conveyed in these shows and movies. Today we are going to look at a very interesting topic. It's a topic that has interested me for many years, and it's a topic I really think needs to be addressed because a lot of people ask the question, what exactly is a classic movie? Now, the thing that started this whole debate off was that I was actually watching one of my favorite channels, TCM, or Turner Classic Movies. I love that channel. I love to watch all the movies that come on it. Most of the time you'll get a lot of those older movies. You'll get movies like Casablanca. You'll get movies like Citizen Kane. You'll get movies like even some of the Hammer and Universal films. You will get Sunset Boulevard. You'll get pretty much anything that came out within the early 20th century. But however, as of recent, they started kind of moving forward and showing some newer film. Now, obviously, they do show some movies from the 70s and 80s. That's cool. But more recently, they've been showing some more modern films. And now, usually this happens around the time of the 31 Days of Oscar marathon. Back in 2016, they aired the Lord of the Rings movies in their chronological order from Fellowship all the way to Return of the King on Turner Classic Movies as a part of their Best Picture Oscar winners. Not long after that, I stumbled upon a forum that actually had explained that TCM had been showing some modern movies for quite some time. I guess they had shown No Country for Old Men on the channel as well. I guess that they also showed Men in Black at one time. That kind of does surprise me a little bit, but hey, it's a good movie. I like Men in Black, so I'm not really complaining. But it really got me thinking, what makes a classic movie? Because when I was reading through this, I saw a bunch of posts that said that, you should not be showing these kinds of movies because they are not classic movies. You are Turner Classic Movies. You should be showing classic movies. But what is a classic movie exactly? What are you referring to really through that? So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that today. So while there's no exact definition for the term classic movie, as really it's an umbrella term for basically anything a lot of people really hold value to, I thought I would go ahead and kind of get a little bit technical with it. So I researched the definition of classic. And according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, I really like the first definition of the term classic. The term classic to them is serving as a standard of excellence or of recognized value. So in a sense, really, it's something that is of really high excellence or something that really kind of stands out above all else. And of course, we all know what a movie is. It's not hard to describe a movie. A movie is a moving picture. So really, it's saying it is a movie of standard excellence or a moving picture of standard excellence or of high recognized value. Most people, when they think of the term classic movie, the first thing that comes to their mind is an old grainy black and white film that has actors like Rita Hayworth, Clark Gable, Humphrey Bogart, or Ingrid Bergman. A lot of the times people think of these as classic movies because they're often brought up in either film school or by their grandparents or their parents who really appreciated these old types of films. And the first thing that a lot of people think is that, a classic movie, in order to be a classic, has to be really old. But that I don't think is necessarily true, however. I define a classic movie as something that is not only just game changing, but something that really somebody put a lot of heart into and somebody really cared about the project and really kind of went above and beyond to make sure that this film was made, and not only just made, but was made in a way that they could tell a very good story. Now, there's plenty of examples of where this happened and it failed miserably. Yes, I am looking at you, Tommy Wiseau, even though I do love The Room. But usually when people pour their blood, sweat, and tears into a movie, it's usually going to come out pretty good because you obviously aren't putting that in for nothing. You obviously want to do a good job with this film, and obviously you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that it succeeds. That is what I see as a classic movie. I don't see a classic movie as something that has to be from the 20th century or before, something that is old. I see a classic movie really as any movie that stands the test of time and that really the artist took a lot of pride and pleasure in doing and actually worked really hard to get it made. I really think that you could argue that any movie could be a classic movie. I mean, take a look at some of these movies coming out today. You could argue that The Departed is a classic movie. You could argue that Gangs of New York is a classic movie. You could argue that The King's Speech is a classic movie. You could argue that even Coda, this year's Best Picture winner, is a classic movie. I mean, just look at how well all of these movies are really made. When you really kind of look at it, these are films that really kind of stand the test of time. Now, obviously, The King's Speech is a historical film, so of course it's going to be important. But just because you make a historical film doesn't mean it's going to be groundbreaking and impactful. They actually make you feel for both of them. King George, with the fact that he's suffering from a speech impediment, and Lionel really trying to get at the root of King George to help him make his very first wartime speech. Look at the storytelling of The Departed. You have two characters, both cops, but working on opposite sides of the law. Look at Matt Damon's character. You have his character who's on the inside working for Jack Nicholson, and you have Leonardo DiCaprio, who came from a criminal background and is working as a police officer going undercover in Jack Nicholson's crew. Nothing like that really had been done before. Obviously, I know The Departed's a remake, but really that was pretty groundbreaking. So when you really look at it, anything that you want can be described as a classic movie. Me, for instance, I define a classic movie as a movie that really can intrigue me, something that can really pull me in, and something that keeps me invested throughout the entire film. To me, it doesn't matter about which year it was made. It matters that it's able to captivate me and move me in a way that is never done so before, as well as can tell a very good story and keep it flowing throughout the entire picture, even if it's non-linear. I mean, look at Quentin Tarantino's movies. His movies are all over the place, but yet they keep you intrigued. So that to me is really the definition of a classic movie. Now, there are so many other ways that could be described as a classic movie, but I'm mostly responding to the fact that a lot of people were outraged when they saw that TCM was showing modern movies. I mean, they showed The Lord of the Rings. I think they showed No Country for Old Men. And I think they might have even shown The King's Speech, as well as a few other modern movies. I don't know all the movies they've shown, but I do know that there are a few good amount of modern movies that they occasionally show. They don't always show them. Most of the time they do stick by their brand and they do stick to the older films, but at the same time they also do occasionally show a couple. It's usually around the 31 Day of Oscar marathon that they do every year, and it usually depends on the theme that they're going with. Some years they go with Best Picture winners, some years they go with Best Screenplay winners, some years they go with Best Actor winners, and some years they just go with pretty much everything. And usually they show a good majority of movies that have been nominated or have won the Oscar in that category. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of these messages that are on this messaging board, and I'm going to kind of respond to them with my own thoughts. And now keep in mind, this is just my opinion. If you have another opinion, that's great. And I would encourage you to leave it in the comments section, and I would encourage you to keep the discussion going about this topic. And to the people who wrote these, I'm going to keep it anonymous because obviously I don't want it to get out there, but I'm going to read some of these comments. So if you're watching this, Please don't get offended if I really bash your comment. I'm just simply replying with my own input, and sometimes I will admit I can be a little brash, but I'm not going to be overly rude. I'm not going to tell you that your opinion doesn't matter, because it very much matters, and I love to hear other people's opinions and their thoughts on this. There have been people who've changed my mind in the past. So let's go ahead and check out this first one. So this first one says simply, for some reason, TCM has begun to show several modern movies such as Men in Black. I don't remember seeing Men in Black on the channel, but if any of you remember, please let me know. I'm sorry, but 1997 movies are not classic. Note to TCM, please do not show modern movies. You are called Turner Classic, bold and underlined, folks, movies for a reason. That's very interesting. I'm going to respond to this first part. I'm sorry, but 1997 movies are not classic. Actually, I'm going to disagree with you there. I think there are a lot of great movies that came out in 1997 that could be considered classics. One of those films is As Good as It Gets, with Jack Nicholson, Helen Hunt, Greg Kinnear, and Cuba Gooding Jr. That is a great example of some great storytelling and great character development, especially through Jack Nicholson's character, Helen Hunt's character, and even Greg Kinnear's character. Just watching this group kind of come around and really get to know and respect each other for their differences and for all the little things that they have in common that they realize is just a great thing. And I thought that the way that the story was told was excellent. I mean, Jack Nicholson won an Oscar for that movie, and that movie was even nominated for Best Picture of 1997. Another movie that I consider to be a classic, Good Will Hunting. Are you going to tell me that Good Will Hunting's not a classic movie? I mean, Good Will Hunting has Matt Damon and Robin Williams in probably what is his best known role to this day. I mean, obviously Robin Williams has done a lot of good work. Rest in peace, my good friend. However, that role I feel stands out above all else. And really, the storytelling's brilliant. A young janitor working at MIT who actually has a gift for many of the mathematics taught at that very school. And he has some problems, he has some social problems. He went through a lot as a kid. He was abused. He was an orphan. And then he makes a bond with Jack Nicholson, who's his therapist, who he has to go see after he's arrested for assaulting a police officer. So really, when you look at all of this and you see Will's character actually coming to light, it really is something that made me feel for all of these characters. I would very much argue that Good Will Hunting is a classic movie. And then the last part, note to TCM, please do not show modern movies. You're called Turner Classic Movies for a reason. Well, when you look at it, really, it says Turner Classic Movies. I just kind of explained what a classic movie really is. It's an umbrella term. Yes, there are people who are going to tell you that only older movies should be classic and should be shown on this channel or channels like it. I understand, because really they are preserving a lot of film. They do show a lot of movies that you can't find anymore or that are out of print because of their huge library. You don't just say you're called Turner Classic Movies, because if you say that, then you're going to get a lot of people who are going to come at you and say, well, a classic movie could be anything, kind of like I'm saying right now. I'm not trying to attack you. I'm not trying to say that your opinion isn't valid. I'm just saying that if you want it to sound a little bit better, maybe choose better wording next time, and maybe kind of explain why you feel Turner Classic Movies is called that for the reason that it is. Now, the second comment states simply, I agree. Just the thought of losing all these wonderful and classic movies to the new and not so great movies, whatever that means, just makes me nauseous. I honestly don't know what I would do without TCM. I hope they don't start pushing the classics behind and airing these new movies. Please, TCM, don't do that to us. Okay, there's a lot I could say about this, but I'm going to keep this one short since I kind of went long on the last one. So it starts off with saying, just the thought of losing all these wonderful classic movies to the new and not so great. So are you trying to say that modern movies are not so great and that only classic movies are considered to be great? Now, while I agree that older movies do have a certain flair and charm that did kind of get lost as we started to transition into the more modern age, I don't think that all new movies are terrible. I think that there are a lot of newer films that are great. I mean, like I listed already a few of them for you. I love a lot of the new things that certain directors are doing, like Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, and even some of these new directors like Damien Chazelle. I love this man, the guy who did La La Land. I love Lin-Manuel Miranda. I mean, obviously, he comes from a more Broadway background, but at the same time, he's a great actor and he's a great director. I saw In the Heights, great film. I am also a fan of the Marvel and new Star Wars universe, even though I will admit the new Star Wars universe could be a little bit better. The second part of this, I honestly don't know what I would do without TCM. I hope they don't start pushing the classics behind and airing these new movies. I don't really see that happening. I think that obviously they are going to stay true to their word. Obviously they are going to be a classic movie channel, and they're going to remain that way for many, many years to come. I think the only reason they're showing some of these newer films is within context of the topics that they're talking about, and they only really do it around the Oscar time. I've never really seen it happen anywhere else. However, usually it's within that. Some of them are even remakes. I mean, look at Scarface from 1932 with Paul Mooney, directed by Howard Hawks. I mean, obviously that is an older movie. Sometimes they do things like, movies and their remakes. And then you could look at the 1983 version of Scarface with Al Pacino. And how are you going to do that without showing that version as well if you're going to do that? So really, when you look at it, they only do that at certain times. I don't see them becoming only primarily starting to show newer movies now. And we're going to just take a look at one final comment here. And this comment happens to just be very short, very sweet. So there's really not a whole lot of time that we need to spend on this, but I am going to respond to this because it kind of cracks me up. So this one says, TCM should not show anything after 1970. Pre-1970 era is the classic era. Agreed. Oh boy. What are we going to do about you? I'll admit that a lot of great movies did come out from between the periods of, the 1930s to maybe about the 1950s. But at the same time, when you say that everything before 1970 is considered classic, that's not a very good argument whatsoever, because there are a lot of movies that came out from about the 70s to the 90s that are just amazing, amazing films. So are you going to tell me that Patton is not a classic movie? Patton's a great movie. Are you going to tell me that The Godfather is not a classic movie? The Godfather is considered to be the greatest movie of all time. It ranks number 2 on AFI's top 100 movie list. Are you going to tell me that Jaws is not a classic movie? Jaws was a blockbuster. It's what started the whole summer blockbuster thing. Are you going to tell me that Star Wars is not a classic film? Star Wars broke so many grounds. I mean, look at what happened. That movie was destined to fail, but all of a sudden it succeeded. And look at the giant universe that Star Wars is to this day. I don't know a single person who wouldn't consider Star Wars a classic. I get what you're saying. I mean, not all these movies may be held to the same extent of films that are shown on this channel and channels like it. But at the same time, when you say things like the classic era is this, the classic era is that, no, it's not that exactly. That's just your opinion of what the classic era is. And I get it. You are entitled to your opinion. But really, when you look at what TCM is offering us, they are offering us what really classic movies are. I mean, I saw some posts on there also that said a classic movie is not necessarily an old movie. They're not called Turner old movies or Turner ancient movies. They're called Turner classic movies because they show classic movies. So really, I feel that all of these movies, even modern classics, should have their opportunity to one day be shown on this channel. But at the end of the day, I really think that classic movies can be whatever you want them to be, and I think TCM is going to be smart in making that choice. In conclusion, I feel a classic movie is something that definitely stands the test of time, as well as something that moves you in a certain way, or something that really intrigues you to keep watching the movie, and something that really just kind of makes it special to you. But we all have our different opinions and thoughts on what a classic movie is, and that's totally fine. I totally respect if your opinion is that classic movies are movies that came from the 20th century, moreover the early to mid 20th century, and I get it if maybe you don't think that, some more of the modern films are branded as classics. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed this video. be sure to give this video a like and please leave a comment, as well as subscribe and switch on that little bell so you'll get notified about all my new episodes of both JC Entertainment and Logo Madness that are to come, as well as any little specials that I might do on the side. I'm really looking forward to doing all this content for you. The next one we're going to take a look at is a film from 1941 considered to be the greatest movie of all time. We're going to take a look at Citizen Kane. We're going to look at this movie in full. We're going to take a look at some of the deeper hidden messages within the film, and we're going to take a couple scenes even and break this film down and really kind of look at the deeper hidden messages that are conveyed through Citizen Kane and what it tells us about both the characters and about our own lives, really. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I am your host, JC, and I'm going to leave you with this. Always look for the beauty in life because you never know just around the corner what beauty you might find. Peace out, y'all.